What's up, everyone? It is your guy Tyler here, Mom's Basement MMA. I am on episode 88 of the show. I've made it almost 100 episodes. I'm getting dangerously close. The world may implode by the time we get to 100, but you know what? We're here. We're going to roll with it. Glory Watson is with me today. She's one of the most promising female fighters in New England. Glory, thank you for being here with me on this cold-ass January afternoon.
Yeah, pretty chilly. This morning it was like -6 on my way into the gym.
So,
all done.
Well, you're like pretty much in Canada. I am all the way down here in Virginia. So like, yeah, I'm like, I don't even know how far away that is, but pretty far. And I'm cold. And, you know, with you being in the North Pole and whatnot, it's got to be like doubly worse. Let's talk about Maine for a second. You train out of Young's MMA in Bangor, Maine. That's a gym I really don't know a whole lot about, and I'm curious, like, you've been there for a while. Talk to me about Young's MMA. Why is that such a special place for you, and what is the atmosphere like?
Okay, so Young's MMA has been around for quite some time, I believe about 10 years, when New England Fights actually first started putting out promotions, which is the promotion I primarily fight for. Young's was a really huge part of that. Our head coach is Christopher Young, hence Young's MMA, and he has been really involved. I think that when it comes to coaching, I think his style of coaching is very unique because he doesn't break everything up. He doesn't have a wrestling coach and then a jiu-jitsu coach and a striking coach. He's so involved in his gym that he coaches every single aspect and will talk about how they all incorporate with one another. And I think that that's been really beneficial in having the success that he's had. He's had multiple regional title holders for men. He's had multiple women fighters. Really just been a huge asset for New England. He was voted one of the top gyms in New England for, I think it was like 2016 or something like that.
Wow.
Before I started. So really a solid gym, and we're just trying to put Maine on the map for a little bit more than just lobsters.
I think you're well on your way. I found out about you because I was preparing for a show with Hillary Rose. She is another New England gal. You two fought each other. I was really, really impressed. I wanted to know more. I got in a YouTube wormhole. Here we are. And I have to say, like, one of the things that is so interesting to me is you have a lot of fights under your belt in like a compacted amount of time. And there's a story behind that. And I'm specifically talking about your amateur career before we get into all the craziness of the world that's today. You're fighting like every 90 days. I don't really see people fight that often. There's got to be a story there. Like, can you walk me through your amateur career briefly? Like, why were you so, like, fighting, like, all these girls like you were mad at them? What was the story behind that? And when did you decide that the time was right to make your pro debut not that long ago?
So when it comes to fighting in general, when I first walked into the gym, I had no intention of fighting. It never even crossed my mind. Just started training. I walked in the door, had a blast, and like we make the joke that I never left, which is true. After my first couple months, I started doing double sessions. I did my first jiu-jitsu tournament, and then within a year, I was approached about wanting to fight. And again, it was nothing. I was like, I want to fight, which I feel like happens a lot. Sometimes
Right.
people are pushed for it. So coach made the decision. Coach makes every decision for me in the fight world because I'm still really new to it.
Sure.
So like I said, I trained for about a year before my first amateur fight, fought and fell in love with it. It was amazing. My first opponent, she was fantastic. I still talk to her, like super great. And just after that, I was hooked. And we kept getting offers and offers and offers. And coach would be like, do you want to take it? I'm like, yep, let's take it. The reason my body held up to it so well is I have a really good warm-up routine, a really good stretch routine, and I have a really good team of recovery professionals behind me. I have a massage therapist. I work with a chiropractor. I work with a whole lot of people that help my body maintain it. So really
that's pretty wild. Like, I know you're still young. I know you're not even 30. And like when you are below the 30 mark, your body heals a lot quicker. When you become like super old like me, not the case. So enjoy it while you can. What was super cool is you're not only just fighting frequently, but you're fighting these tough girls and you're doing well. You dropped one fight as an AMI. It happened to be your very last one. When you got that first loss, like how difficult was that to just kind of let that one go and learn and get better? Is it one of those things where it's like a guy breaks up with you kind of thing and you're sad for a while? Or are you one of those types where it's like, okay, it is what it is, moving on. I'll be back in the gym tomorrow. Like when you're coming off of a loss, like which camp are you in?
I would say I'm more it is what it is, time to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Right after the loss, I remember it's almost impossible to have a loss and not be upset about it,
Right.
regardless of how it goes. So I remember sitting on the floor and I'm like, I just really want to hug my dad. I was a wreck. So
Hey,
like
yeah.
afterwards we went and I talked to coach about it and he's like, technically she wasn't necessarily better than you. She wasn't worse than you. You guys were really well matched. What she had going for her is she would have died in that cage that night.
Mm-hmm.
Is she brought it all in and he's like, mentally you weren't there. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I think you're 100% right. So that was the hardest part, is knowing that the reason that I lost was myself.
And when you're coming off of a win, are you like do you mostly have the same mentality? Like you don't let your lows get too low and your highs get too high? Is it one of those things where it's like, yeah, good fight, moving on to the next one? Or is it one of those things where it's like, no, I put in a lot of work, I'm gonna like live it up for a little bit? Like how do you respond when things are going well?
I would consider myself very humble,
Mm-hmm.
probably to a detriment most of the time. You get wins, you get losses, but when it comes to the win, you have a certain amount of time. Usually it's that night. You get to be crazy excited, you get to do everything. But when you have a goal that's further than just one fight, as soon as that night's over, it's back to work. It's time
Right.
to get back in that mental headspace to do that.
You weren't an AMI for very long. It was from the summer of 2018 through the winter of 2019. That's not a long time. COVID hits, right? Everything gets shut down. There are no fights to be found anywhere. And that's not unique. That was everybody at all levels, really, with the except unless you happen to be in the UFC. And even then, unless they asked you to go to Fight Island or something like that, or the Apex, maybe not. So you're fighting every 90 days. Now you go year and a half without a fight. Now, what did you do, number one, to stop yourself from like getting into like a padded room? Like, how did you not go nuts? And how difficult was that for you? Because now we go from one extreme where you're very, very active to now all of a sudden everything's quiet. And there's a lot of uncertainty about what the world's going to look like. Um, and there still are some of those concerns. So tell me how that year and a half stretch was for you and how did you make it out of that?
Yes. So in that year and a half, actually, my gym ended up, we had a deal with a local businessman that we were in a certain facility. That facility didn't end up working out. So we were kind of bouncing around from place to place until we found a small little office space
Mm-hmm.
that I think we had maybe 100 square feet of mat or something like that. It wasn't a very big space. And so trying to deal with that. But the easiest way to get through all of it was having outlet, being able to go train. I was really lucky that my head coach and I, and actually majority of our fighters, stayed really tight through COVID and were able to get together still every day or every other day or still twice a day and make sure that we were all getting the work in. So even though I was out for a year and a half, I was still making really solid improvements.
Most people don't fight full time. Most people got other things going on. I've talked to people from all walks of life. I've talked to people that are construction workers. I've talked to people that are teachers. I've talked to everyone. So like how are you keeping your lights on and like how do you manage all of this? Because fighting is a full-time thing and most of us have other lives going on too. So whether you're a student or you work full-time, like I gotta ask, like how the hell are you doing all of this? How are you managing all of this?
I am incredibly lucky that I am able to do actually what I love every single day. I get to go into the gym in the morning. I do my workout. I spend the middle of the day working with my clients who are learning what I love and some of them I work some just strength and conditioning programs, some striking, some jujitsu, a whole bunch of different things. And I get to do what I love and then do what I love in the morning, do what I love in the evening, and the
Well,
middle of the
sweet.
day with people.
That,
Yeah.
then that works out perfectly. Yeah. So if you work at your gym anyway, I mean, that's the perfect get up. There's a lot of fighters I talk to that have a similar arrangement, and they're very happy because they're able to, well, number one, not have to like change really. You just put on another pair of leggings or another tank top or whatever, and you're pretty much good to go. So it makes your life
Yes.
a lot easier. Good for you. I bet that's really satisfying to like help people that maybe aren't athletes, but to like help them achieve their goals. That's got to be kind of cool, right? Like now all of a sudden, like you can put the focus on somebody else rather than being in the spotlight all the time. That's got to be
Yeah.
nice to kind of flip that switch.
Yeah. I work with a gentleman. He just turned 72 last week,
Wow.
and he's dropped like 40 pounds, and he's turned into such a completely different person physically and mentally, and that is so rewarding in itself that it's not something I think I can ever stop doing.
When I look at your fight career, like you have fought at 115 pounds, you fought at 125 pounds, you've fought as high as like 130 pounds, which I am going to go ahead and I'm going to guess that's probably right around a normal weight for you. So I've already done two things that you're not supposed to do. I've already talked about how old you are. I've already talked about how much I think you weigh. So I'm on a freaking roll right now. And when you look at like long term a weight class for you and where you're most comfortable at, is it 115 pounds? Because I know you're like 5'2", so I know you're kind of like a shorty, but is there a difference? Like, do you feel stronger when you're at those higher weight classes?
Definitely not. Right now, I feel the strongest I've ever felt, and that's at 115. I feel absolutely fantastic, and it's not. I think if I put in a really really hard camp and I changed my diet the way that I needed to, I could potentially get down to 105.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, there isn't really a super hot 105 division in any higher up promotion. So 115 is a good home to have until that kind of happens, and I feel really strong there. I feel fast. I think, and yes, I'm very short.
Mm-hmm.
I do have my arms are a little long for my body, so I have that going for me.
Hey, absolutely. You got to use what you've been given. And the only thing I could think about is for 105, it only makes sense to be very selective as to whom you would fight because number one, it's a very difficult cut. Two, if you compromise your strength too much, you get in a cage and who knows, right? It's kind of the unknown. So it's like I think from like the outsider perspective looking in, it's probably one of those situations where it's like, well, if it's the right promotion, if the purse is right and the opponent's right, and I'm on a bigger stage, yeah, why not? Let's do it. But I think you're in a position in your career like because you're just so brand new into the professional side of things, like it's more than likely going to be one of those like, hey, can you make 105 in 3 days? It's probably going to be like one of those situations. And I'm not going to say her name, but that happened to somebody that I know.
Yeah.
A relatively new pro, 1-0. She got a call for this last Invicta card. And they're like, will you take it? And she's just like, what weight class? And they're like, Adam. She's just like, nope. Like she's like, there's no way. There's no way I can do that. And like, is that something that you think about, Gloria? Like with all the uncertainty, with all these girls that are getting the vid, bouts getting canceled and stuff all the time. Do you have to like think about like in the back of your mind, are you always like, yeah, I'm ready to go? Like if I get one of those short notice calls, I'm ready to go. Or are you the type where it's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to compromise myself. I'm going to be patient and I'm going to wait for the right opportunity. Or is that something that's entirely up to your coach that you're not even involved in?
I do leave it entirely up to coach. Any offers that are made are actually never made directly to me. They're always made to coach or to my manager, Kira, who you've spoken with on and off.
Yep.
But I am usually pretty smart. I keep my weight at a point where I'm usually right about 15 pounds out. So if worst case scenario, there is potential that I could make weight on short notice. Not that we necessarily want to,
Right.
but
right.
the opportunity is there for me if I get that call.
Yeah, if it made sense. And One of the things I also like about you is you're willing to like also get out of your comfort zone. And what I mean by that specifically is not all of your fights have happened in New England. You've actually left New England. You made your pro debut, I think, in like Georgia or Florida. I think something. It's one of those two. I think it's Florida.
Florida.
Okay,
Yep.
got it.
You
You
got
made
it.
your pro debut down there, and there's got to be a lot of anxiety, number one, because it's a pro debut, right? Everyone wants to, you want to get a dub, you want to get something you've been working for so hard, and people are actually going to pay you money for it. Like, you want to start it off right. You walked into an environment where nobody, a lot of people don't know you. The people that do know you as an opponent for somebody else that they actually came to see. So they're the only people that were probably saying yay were like mom and dad if they came down to watch you fight. A couple of your friends, people in your gym that may have been on the same card as you, and that's probably about it. Was that a fish out of water experience for you? Like, were there a lot of nerves for that one? Because I would imagine in New England, like people know who you are, and like it's the exact opposite. Like people are going there to see you fight. Not the case in your pro debut.
So that would have been the case if I didn't have this crazy, amazing support system and I sold 40 tickets
Hey,
to travel halfway across, well, all the way across the country from one end to the other.
hey, that's
And
pretty
so,
impressive.
yeah, it was showing up there. I was expecting, I'm going to get booed, all of
Yeah,
these things. And like, it was not like that at all. I was really warm welcome. And my family, it's almost my entire family is who goes. The 40 people is my family.
right, right, right.
And they always cheer on my opponent. They always hug her afterwards. You're like, you did so good. It's We're all a little bit weird.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
New York, when I fought in New York, that was the one where I didn't bring anyone. I didn't sell any tickets. I didn't do anything. So I was really expecting to be in that hostile environment. And I showed up and I didn't get booed. I think the crowd wasn't more leaning towards me or to her. Everyone was just stoked that it was a fight. And everyone
Right.
loves to watch girls fight.
Yes, they do because you guys don't put on boring fights. Do people often ask you, or like when you first started out, were people like, "Why are you doing this?" Like, "Oh my gosh, like you're going to be a vegetable. Like, what is the deal? Why can't you just box people in your gym and then like do something quote unquote normal?"
Yeah. So I get the, oh, you're too pretty to be punched in the face. And my response is always, it's really not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. If you're training with the right people, it's only bad a couple nights out of the year when someone is coming to put your face in the back of your head. But other than that, it's not that bad.
I think it's one of those things where I love it because I'm a father. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I feel like women's sports in general, like this is just Tyler's opinion, so like the political correct police don't come arrest me, but women's sports in general, it doesn't get a lot of attention, right? Like people will talk about like women's soccer, like that's pretty, I guess, kind of popular. I don't watch sports, just MMA, but I hear enough about it on the news. Like that's pretty popular, but like WNBA, name one player. I couldn't. I have no idea. And other sports just don't exist. There is no women's baseball league, like not at an MLB level. It exists in college, but there are limited opportunities, and that doesn't always like translate into like long-term professional success. Like you're talking about world-class athletes, but they don't get the prestige, they don't get the time or attention that they probably deserve. I don't really understand why that is. I'm not going to really get into it, but with women's mixed martial arts, I don't feel that way. You have females headline these cards all the time, and people don't leave when the girls fight. That doesn't happen. And it's just refreshing to see. I like seeing that. I like seeing that sort of like equality where it's like, no, if you have the balls to get in there and do this, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter like your gender. None of that stuff matters, man. It's just really a matter of like, hey, see that person, fight that person. And I love the simplicity of that.
I think that it really does. It gives younger girls who are like the tomboy or anything like that, who are like, no, I like to hang out with the boys. I like to wrestle around with the boys on the playground and all this stuff. It gives them the potential to be like, this is okay. It's okay for me to want to put on a dress and then go out and wrestle. It's okay to have the duality that exists within men and women. But now I think it does give women the ability, or young girls in particular, the ability to know that it's okay to be both.
I guess one of the things that bothers me slightly is I think there's a time and place for everything, right? And there are a lot of girls out there that I think sexualize the sport more than what it needs to be. I understand that this is a business, this is a promotion, you need to do what you need to do. I get that, and I really don't care what anybody does. When they're outside of the cage, like whatever your business is what your business is. I don't give a shit. But I kind of think like there are some women, I'm not going to name names, but we all know who they are. They're out there. They may not necessarily conduct themselves in a manner that's respectful to the women that paved the way to bring this sport, to bring women's martial arts to where it is. And when you see that, when you see younger gals that are out there that are conducting themselves in that way, like as a woman, does that kind of like piss you off a little bit? Or are you just kind of like, where do you kind of fall in that?
So for me, I guess like I've talked to coach, I've talked to everyone, like I just want to fight. Mm-hmm. I don't care about the publicity. I don't care about all of these other pieces. Like I want to show up, I want to fight, and I want to do something amazing. I want to be exceptional. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of women do sexualize this, but it's a good way to get your name out there. And some people sexualize it because they like it.
Right.
Like some people like feeling sexy. They like to feel beautiful, and they think that's the best way to do it, or that's the way they like to do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm totally okay with that. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like there is a point where it doesn't have to go that direction. It could be, you can still be beautiful and have a black eye. You can still be beautiful and have a scratch on your face or a scar on your face or anything like that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not sexy because of those things. I think sex appeal means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Don't twerk when you're in the cage, though. I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
That's a fair statement. I think I can agree with that one.
Okay,
that's
cool.
That's not my style.
No.
Like, I'm so awkward. Like, afterwards, I'm like, hi.
Do I shake? Do we fist bump? Like,
I never know what to do with my body.
I can only imagine, right? It's like one of those things where it's like, hey, like I just elbowed you in the face 10 times. Do we hug? Do we hate each other still? How does this work?
Are we friends now, or are we not friends?
Yeah.
I'm the one that's like, friends? Yeah, you want to hug? I can't help it. I do it at weigh-ins too. Like weigh-ins, my opponents will like get in my face, and I'm like, I can't help it.
Well, you know what? I think in a way it just works for you, right? Like you can't be somebody you're not. You have to be who you are. Fighting, there are a lot of facades to it, but I'm always refreshed by the people that are just like, you know what, man? I'm just gonna go out there tomorrow. I'm gonna do the best I can, but I'm just gonna be me. Like I'm not gonna be this caricature. And I think that's something. There's something to be said for that. When we talk,
there was one fight that like they were like, I want you to scream into the camera. I'm like, I can't. So I'm like, I just did this. I'm like, I don't know what this means.
That's so awkward. That's awkward.
It's me to a T. And they like sent me all the photos from the photo sheets, and I saw everyone's like screaming into it. I'm like, those are cool. And then I see mine, and I burst out laughing. It was so funny. I didn't even know I just can't handle it. I can't be pressed in front of a camera. You
know what? You just have to be you, right? I think that's what matters the most. You have to be you, and if you try to be somebody you're not, it comes off as inauthentic and plasticky, and we don't want that. And when I think about like where we are at this point in your career, you drop your debut, you fight Hillary Rose. It was a kickboxing bout, doesn't go your way. Include that last Amy fight, that's a 3-fight skid right there. And you're fighting against a very risky girl in Rebecca Brigman. If you don't know who that is, she fought Elise Reed in Bellator. I'm not going to really like get into her backstory. If you don't know who she is, feel free to Google it, but you might want to do that on incognito mode, and you probably don't want to Google her when you're at work. Don't make sure your kids aren't around. Hey, it's all love. I'm just trying to save somebody from a not so. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna move on. And Brigman, that was a risky fight for you to take. There was probably a lot of people that were saying like she's not really serious about this. This person's a joke, and all kinds of mean, crazy things about her, right? And that kind of puts you in a position where it's like, oh my gosh, you lost to her. Oh, you beat her. Whatever. Like you're not really a winner, right? No matter like what happens. Like, was there a lot of like smack talk directed to you prior to that bout? Like, what I would imagine with Brigman comes a little bit more attention than you're probably used to getting. Was that one of those, like, was it just kind of like a weird, awkward thing for you, or is it just like any other fight?
It really was just like any other fight. It's all of these things happen all around the outside for every single person. And I think that the people who are the most successful can make their path in the middle as small as possible. And they make it a straight line. It's not zigzagging through all of the craziness on the outside. You make a straight line and you go. And that was what I had to do for that fight.
You fought her in New York. That is her stomping grounds. Again, we leave the comfort zone of New England to take this fight. You already mentioned that the atmosphere was a lot more chill than you thought it would be. You're getting ready. You go out there. First impression of her, like once you start fighting, like did she surprise you? Did she throw anything at you or do anything that made you sit back and go like, oh wow, like this girl like does actually train, like this girl like knows what she's doing, kind of thing? Like, was there anything that she did that either impressed you or took you off guard?
So I can't say that I've fought anyone that I would say that happens, because I walk in the cage prepared for anything.
Yeah.
Like someone, who knows? Someone may come out and throw a spinning back kick. You never know what's going to come out first or what someone's going to do. And I think that a lot of times, a lot of fighters fall into that, like, this is what I expect. This is what they're going to do. And by doing that, you are kind of painting yourself into a corner, because you're like, I'm going to train for this, because they throw a lot of jabs. All they do is throw jabs. Mm-hmm. And then they come out and they throw a lead kick and you're completely thrown off guard. So I think it's really important to focus on what you're doing. Mm-hmm. It's your coach's responsibility to prepare you for what they're going to do, not your responsibility to hyper focus on what they do.
You got in there. The fight doesn't make it to the second round. You're able to secure a submission victory at the very, very end. That had to have felt really good. And was it kind of like validating in a sense? Like, no, I have what it takes to keep doing this? Because it had been a minute since you had your arm raised. Like, how good did that feel to get a victory against her?
It was phenomenal. I think I really needed it. After I sunk the choke in and she tapped, and I screamed and I swore, and I never swear in the cage ever. So I'm like, afterwards, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said the F word. Felt so bad. But I mean, I swear like a sailor outside of the cage.
Sure.
I've never sworn in the cage. So it was, I think I really, really needed it. And I've been working so hard. So it was nice to finally have something to be like, this is what all of my hard work has led to.
You secure a victory over her. And, flash forward a little bit. Now this is the next MMA fight, right? Like, we haven't had an MMA fight. We were supposed to. A fight got canceled earlier. That probably sucked. But here we are. And you have a really tough, scary girl that you have to fight here in a couple weeks. But before I ask you about that, like, since the Brigman fight, like, what have you been up to? What have you been doing to get ready? Like, how has your camp been? How are you feeling ahead of your fight?
So since the Brigman fight, I actually had another opponent booked through the same promotion. It was with Chrissy Andoli, and the New York commission things fell through, and the fight wasn't able to happen. It got canceled on like a week's notice, right after Thanksgiving. So I didn't get to have Thanksgiving. Oof. And I love food, so I was real mad. But anyway, so that we prepared for that camp, and she's 5'8". She's a lot taller than me. So to go from her, preparing camp for her, to Alibeth, who's 5'1", 5'2", it's much different. But looking at it now, I was able to build tools for fighting a taller person, and now I'm using tools that I can fight a shorter person, and then it will allow you to have different things to pull from in different scenarios. And I think that the training for a tall person versus now has completely changed my game.
One of the things that's interesting, I was definitely going to ask you about that because I know she's a bigger girl, and now you're fighting somebody who's a lot more your size. Like stylistically, like when you look at Alibeth and you see some of her accolades, what she's been able to accomplish, she's not a very active fighter. That's a fact. But when she does compete, she is overwhelmingly successful. Like you look back, you see a 2-0 record, and people might be fooled a little bit and think she doesn't have a lot of experience. Well, she does. She's fought some very tough girls. Like, what kind of challenge does she bring?
I think the same challenge really everyone brings. That you have a goal and they're the next thing in the way. And it's like I was kind of mentioning with my first loss, it was mental. It was really, I'm the reason I lost that fight, is being able to win that fight. And then if I lose, it's because she was better than me. I don't want to beat myself. If she's going to beat me because of her skills and her technique, then that's great. So I guess right now the goal is to perfect myself and my skills and already have my head on right. So when it's time to fight, it's time to fight. And I'm not worried about beating myself.
Talked about, I need to focus on myself. I can't worry too much about my opponent. And it would be really easy and tempting, I think, to get in a YouTube wormhole, look at all these fights, but they're from 6-7 years ago. And like, how much of that same girl is still around? Like, this is a sport where if you're not constantly evolving, you're going to get found out. And this sport is going to chew you up and it's going to spit you out. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, having a little bit of familiarity is great, but like if you get too into the weeds on somebody, you could psych yourself out. And when you think about it and you're getting ready on February 12th to fight her, are you just going to keep it loose and just more or less keep doing exactly what it is that you have been? Like, are you planning anything special in terms of like how you approach this fight from a mental standpoint? Because this is a big fight, but this time it's in your backyard.
I think when it comes to the mental perspective on this one, I think it's go out there and do what I do. Don't focus on what she's doing. I think a lot of people do fall into that trap, like when you're sparring or anything, you're like, they keep throwing the jab. I can't figure out what to do with this jab. And then that mental time that you're saying, I can't figure out what to do, they're capitalizing on you taking that small break in your head. So the goal is to go out and shut my brain off and just let it go.
And if you happen to be in Portland, Maine, make sure you check out Glory's fight. It's at NEF 46. Are you selling tickets for that still? Are you already sold out? How's that working?
I believe the venue's almost entirely sold out. I'm not certain, but there is going to be, I believe there will be a pay-per-view event, which will be all over my Facebook page and my Instagram and everything like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is a good example, a good indicator of like when fighters talk about fights and when things get announced. Buy your tickets right away. Don't wait until the last minute, or else you're not going to be able to see the show. And if I were in Maine, I would be here. Glory, before I let you go, I want to ask some questions. Well, these aren't my questions. These are questions that people just want to know the answers to. We'll start with a softball. And I think you already kind of answered this question.
Okay.
What is a goal that you would like to achieve this year?
That is something I haven't even really thought about.
Yeah.
I would say my goal is to find my comfort with my striking.
Okay.
Right now, striking I feel like I'm a decent striker. I'm not a bad striker, but I haven't found the flow with it the same way I found with my wrestling and grappling abilities. So hopefully that's the goal, to be able to flip that switch and be able to loosen up a little bit with my striking. All
right. Well, that's a good answer. This is a good question. What food are you craving to eat post-fight?
Yeah, I know who asked this question, and it's cereal. Hands down, cereal. I don't care what kind. I want something crunchy with cold milk. I don't care. I want it.
That is no buffalo wings or pizza, like Captain Crunch would make you happy. That's it.
Yeah, and I have a soft spot in my heart for bran flakes. I think I might actually be 90.
You might be. That is yeah, that's kind of wild. I would never have guessed in a million years that it
So
would be
good.
cereal. That's so you don't eat cereal, like you can't when you're in camp.
Usually I like it's like a treat. I'll get it like for the first 4 weeks because
Uh
we're
huh.
8 week camp. The first 4 weeks it'll be like maybe once or twice I'll get to like have a bowl of cereal. I'm like, oh my god,
And that's
I
it
have
for
to.
you.
Oh, that's it.
That's what does it
But
for you.
after my fight in Florida, my older sister. So do you remember the old school like the '90s? They were long and they had the little mini cereal boxes in
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. Yep.
My sister made me a full size one. And like with just full size boxes of cereal, like 6 different kinds. I'm like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
So what? So okay, give me your top three cereals. What we need to know.
Fruity Pebbles.
Okay.
Probably go Bran Flakes and
Okay.
Cinnamon Life.
I think you just like gave me cavities. My teeth hurt thinking about all that stuff. But hey, live your best life. I prefer yogurt in my cereal. I don't know if that's sacrilegious to you or if that
It's
makes you
good. It's
okay.
good. I take
Okay.
it. I take it.
All right, cool. So you don't want to inflict violence on me, despite at talking about your age earlier, talking about your weight, and now I'm talking about ruining your favorite
I know
food.
you're gonna ruin cereal for
I'm
me.
I'm gonna ruin it for you. So we're off to a freaking great start. Yeah. Oh wow, this is a good question. Who is your favorite Disney princess and why?
Oh my goodness. I
Are you a Disney fan?
am a Disney fan.
Okay. Okay.
I love it. It's bad.
That's
It's
okay.
bad.
So
I
you
have
got
to say, what?
man, I don't even know. You go ahead. I have to think who mine is.
I always say Belle from Beauty and the Beast is probably my favorite.
Why is that?
But like she's like the headstrong girl. Like everyone's like, you're a woman. You're supposed to be this, and she's like, not today. So
Mm,
I kind of love her.
okay. I have to. Jeez, who would be mine? I don't know. I don't even know. I guess if I had to
You
like,
have a daughter. You should know this.
she is way too cool for school. Like she does not give a rat's ass about Disney. Like she doesn't. She doesn't. Yeah. Oh, not even a little bit. Like I don't. Well, my wife doesn't. She won't watch this. But like we watch like rated R movies. We were watching Die Hard over Christmas and stuff. Like
Yes.
yeah,
Good choices.
and she watches some MMA with me, some, but I make sure they're girl fights. She'll watch some of those, and then eventually she gets bored or and stomps off to her room or whatever. But Glory, one more question for you. One more.
Good.
Who would you most like to train with?
Hmm.
That's a good question.
I know. Well, and then does that mean like as a coach or as an athlete? Like I don't know.
Oh,
I would probably.
let's keep it
Yeah,
open. Either or.
I guess it would probably be the same. I would probably say Rose Namajunas,
Ooh, that's
Trevor
good.
Whitman is who I would probably choose. One of the best in the world, and I think she's just amazing. I really like her personality and the things she promotes. I really do like her.
Okay, okay. So for me, if I had to answer this question, okay, pretending I'm a fighter. Okay, got it. Okay, now pretending that I have to pick a woman. I would pick Jessica Andrade. I love Jessica
Ooh, yeah.
Andrade.
Yeah, that's good too.
She is like one of the coolest people ever. Like there would definitely be a language barrier. We'd have to figure something out. But I like her. She just brings it. And she's super tiny. She's like 5'1", but like she hits like a freaking truck. And I love watching her fight. And she's so cool. Like Jessica is like the nicest person ever. Like outside of
Yeah.
the cage, she is so cool.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah,
And,
so
and,
that's what
a
I would
really
pick.
hard one. That's a hard one because like Andrade, you have like Michelle Watterson, you have Wei Zhang, like you have so many amazing choices that could be, but they're all like great for different reasons.
Jessica Andrade is like, I remember my wife watched this with me. We watched like it was Jessica Andrade versus Chukagan. She's just like that little girl's in
Right.
there, and I'm like Sarah's my wife's name. I'm like Sarah, trust me, this girl is a pit bull. Do not think this girl does not know what she's doing. And then my wife watched the entire fight, and then she saw the kidney shot, and she's just like, oh, that chick's mean. I'm like, I know, isn't she fantastic? And I like Caitlyn too. I'm sorry, Caitlyn. I like you. Congratulations on your win. Glory, you are amazing, and I hope that we could do this again. I'm definitely going to be trying to watch your fight. I hope there's a pay-per-view or something. Do we know?
I think there is, but I'm not 100% positive, so I
Okay.
don't want to lie.
Well, before I let you go, I want to give you an opportunity. I know that you have a lot of people that support you when you do this. I know you have like teammates and sponsors and all that other good stuff. So why don't you go ahead and shout out whoever you would like to shout out.
Okay, so I'll start off with teammates and other coaches that I've worked with. Right now, like I said, our gym has kind of moved around a lot, so we are building back from square one. Right now, I do a lot of traveling. I travel 3 days a week, over 2 hours one way. So I spend about 16 hours a week in the car traveling. And so Central Maine Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, their head coach, Travis Sinclair, and their jiu-jitsu coach, Jesse Erickson, well, and he's more their MMA. And then Dustin Vinoy, who runs their kickboxing, Muay Thai program. They have been monumentally helpful through this whole thing when it comes to bodies and techniques and just different things. And another one, that's my Tuesday night. And then on Thursday, I go to Rumford, Maine, which is way out west. Like, you think like I'm in the middle of nowhere, they're in the middle of nowhere. Wow. So there's one of the guys that trains there will actually be fighting on the same card I am. His name is Ryan Burgess, and it's definitely going to be a fun fight to watch. He's fighting for the belt, so I'm stoked. And his coach, Jason Bell, and his coach, Rich, who runs, Fire and Iron, I believe, athletics. And I was there last night, and they were absolutely phenomenal. I couldn't ask for a better coaching team and a better team of fighters behind me. So, and that doesn't include just my home team. My home team, one of my primary partners is a 14-year-old kid.
Wow.
And like catches me all the time. And I'm like, you're the worst. He's like, don't talk to me. I have school in the morning. Like, I suck. Yeah. So, a 14-year-old kid, I have a girl who's a type 1 diabetic who's absolutely amazing. Another guy he's opening a new business and then trying to get access to another business and all of these different things. And that's Jimmy Jackson. And then I have Rich Martell, who's been huge. Like, I have so many. It's a very small group, but everyone is so amazing. And I'm so lucky. Sponsor-wise, I have so many that I would sit here for about 20 minutes to list them all. So I'm actually going to send you a list that has all of them on it.
All right. So all of the sponsors are going to be in the description for this video. Please check it out. Glory's contact information, like all that other good stuff, will be in there. So make sure you follow her on Instagram too. Glory, I really appreciate your time. It was a pleasure, and good luck on your fight.
Thank you so much, Tyler.